Africa. Chatnite Africa. We all over the world. Chatnite Africa. Chatnite Africa. Welcome to Chatnite, the only place that we give you good vibes. Chatnite Africa. Welcome to Chatnite. All over the world, we are shining the light. Chatnite Africa. Welcome to Chatnite.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Voices of Africa on Chatnite. My name is Divine Chamukong, and I am anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. For almost 30 years, I have been in the United States. I haven't witnessed any political event that pulled thousands and thousands of Africans or other immigrants in the same direction. The months leading up to the presidential elections with Donald Trump, the Republican candidate, and Kamala Harris on the Democratic ticket revealed a lot about the people who often spend a lot of time fighting each other. So, what was the fear that drove such unprecedented enthusiasm? You don't know how fast anyone can run until they find a wild cat behind them. Donald Trump has made no bones about his sanguinary hostility towards the immigrant community. And if you think I make this up, go online. You will find his videos in his own words, so condescending towards immigrants. Donald Trump has been elected president. So, are all the trepidations of the immigrant community real or just paranoia? Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today has spent 28 years in the courtroom, arguing immigration cases, injury, civil litigation, and family law. Join me now in welcoming Mr. Edwin Fogam on Chatnite Africa's platform.
Hello, Divine. Thank you for having me.
I have to be the one to thank you for accepting to come on Chatnite Africa to take some questions. And along the line, we will open the phone lines for questions from members of the public. Mr. Fogam, Donald Trump was elected. He has not made any secret of his sanguinary hostility towards immigrants. Surprisingly, Latinos voted in overwhelming numbers for him. So, what are you hearing from the immigrant community? Panic or serenity?
Well, as you rightly pointed out, there is a lot of unpredictable fear. My clients are panicking. Most immigrants are panicking. Many people in proceedings, many immigrants in proceedings are worried. And again, this is all because there is a whole aura of unpredictability. Now, if Donald Trump was going to implement what he has been espousing that he will, then we definitely have to start feeling that there is a reason to worry. But let's get into the details, and then we can determine whether there is or there is no specific reason to worry.
Attorney Edwin Fogam, are such fears a figment of the imagination, or there is real reason to worry?
Now, I'll tell you there is a reason to worry because, I mean, all of us, we have followed we all followed the elections, and we followed the platforms of both parties. We've lived through the Biden years. We saw how the implementation of immigration policies took place. Now, if we were to go with the platform of Donald Trump, what he has been stating, as you rightly pointed out, it is no secret that he has made it clear that even legal immigrants would be at risk if they were to be involved in any criminal activities. So we have real reasons to worry. However, I have to point out that even though we have to worry, there are opportunities even in these situations, because the law is the law, right? And policy and politics is policy and politics. So we have to see how it goes. I know both sides are ready to fight, both the Republicans to present their agenda as well as the liberals or immigrants to fight against this avalanche of negative policies.
Well, some people who are pro-Trump argue that he is going after illegal immigrants. But I mean, you handle these cases, and you're telling us on Chatnite Africa that even legal immigrants are at risk. What risk are legal immigrants exposed to?
Okay. Now, executive orders can actually implement certain procedures that will affect legal immigrants. For example, uh, background checks, criminal activities. What people should know is that even as a permanent resident, you can be placed in removal proceedings if certain criminal activities are unraveled, right? For example, if you are involved in certain aggravated felonies, and so on. And there are some permanent residents who had prior criminal activities even before they became permanent residents. Now, if an executive order comes out that is going to demand background checks and bring out some of these criminal activities for minor criminal activities, those things can trigger removal proceedings and place even permanent residents in removal proceedings. So that's an example.
Yeah, no, you talk about felonies. I mean, we didn't go to law school. Cite some cases of felonies, because you see, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Well, felonies are serious crimes, right? You can, I mean, murder, drug trafficking offenses, and terrorist type of activities. However, multiple non-felonious acts can result into removal proceedings as well. Even crimes that are called crimes of moral turpitude. These are not felonies, but multiple acts like that can trigger removal proceedings. And executive orders could come out that actually target those type of avenues and can bring out people who have been found to have committed some of these type of non-felonious activities, but crimes of moral turpitude. And this can actually be serious.
You're talking about removal proceedings regarding people who have green cards, permanent residents. There are also immigrants who have become citizens and naturalized citizens
Yes.
of the United States. Would such proceedings also involve them? Can they be removed from the United States and sent back to their countries of origin,
Well,
countries of birth in this case?
well, that's a good question. Legally, it's possible, but that's a stretch. It's called denaturalization, right? There is a whole process for that, but it has to be a very serious crime or serious situation that can trigger denaturalization process. For example, serious fraud in your how you obtain your permanent residency or how you became a citizen, treason, terrorism activities, and something like that. And even then, there will be a whole litigious process. You go through the courts, and this DHS or the immigration has to actually demonstrate that you can be denaturalized. It's not easy to denaturalize. That's a very difficult thing, but it is possible. It is legally possible.
So if you are a naturalized citizen or a holder of a green card, you are really not out of the woods. If you got yourselves involved in certain criminal activities, you could be sent packing, So it's important to know that. Again, why this program, I invited a lot of immigrants, every immigrant to watch, regardless of nationality, whether Hispanic, African, or whatever, is because ignorance of the law before a judge is not an excuse. And it doesn't matter what social media says. You agree with me that there's one thing called of social media, but court of law, they operate on two different trajectories.
Yes, you're right. One of the reasons why ignorance of the law is not excuse is that is a defense that anybody will plead, because anybody can plead that defense, right? So that is one of the reasons why ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
There were rumors in social media circulating that one of Trump's Project 2025 is to denaturalize American citizens. Does the president have the powers to just do that, or that procedure or proceeding can only take place if there is a criminal issue involved?
The president doesn't have the power to just do that directly, but the president can do it indirectly. For example, if the president comes out with an executive order that requires the investigation of fraudulently obtained naturalization. That's an example. And the Department of Homeland Security delves into investigating cases and goes back into people's records. It could come up with things that could trigger denaturalization. Of course, that is a stretch, but it is a possibility.
We love Chatnite Africa.
Attorney Edwin Fogam, one can expect a slew of executive orders targeting immigrants beginning January 20th, shortly after President Trump has been sworn in. Could they affect immigration cases or case files on your desk in your office, or those in court pending hearing?
Well, that is a complex question, and I'll tell you why. Say yes and a no, because depending on the mandate that the executive order provides, that is what will affect the cases. For example, some cases are in proceedings, and if an executive order states that judges should apply their discretions in a particular way, then they would have to do that. And if that demands that certain cases in proceedings should be expedited, then that will be done. However, there is also discretion on the part of the judges and the Department of Homeland Security officers to apply how that is going to be applied. So it's going to be a little bit complex. I know it will involve lots of litigation because, as you know, executive orders can be challenged, right? Both by the states and any party that has an interest, has standing to challenge it, either in federal courts, and it can go further right up to the Supreme Court. So it will depend on the situation.
Well, the fortunate thing is that in the United States, we don't have a king of the United States. We have an elected president of the United States, and he doesn't have the power of life and death over citizens. That's the good news. Lawyer Fogam, President Biden wrongly or rightly has been perceived by his critics as permissive towards undocumented immigrants. What actions or inaction of his leave that impression?
Well, I think Biden's policies were geared towards being flexible and humane. Now, whether that was permissive is arguable. Of course, as a result of that, more foreign nationals could come into the country easily than before. However, that doesn't mean that Biden decided to just open the borders or was flexible. I think there was a balancing of the fact that this is a country of immigrants, and there are immigrants who are coming here for very good reasons, and they have to be treated humanely. That's on the one side. Now, the challenge that the Biden administration faced, and which actually spilled over into the election, is that more than the expected amount of foreign nationals came in. And as a result of that, lots of criminal activities took place, and the vetting process was not as rigorous as it had to be. And that might have given the impression that the borders were left wide open.
You talk about humane. So if President Trump comes in and decides to do what he wants to do, tough talking, and if that tough talking translates into policy, is being inhumane, violating the law, and if is Biden's humane approach to immigration violating the law? Who is violating the law? The person who is humane or the person who is inhumane?
Well, Divine, you have to understand that, first of all, the law is informed and usually instructed by power and politics, right? So many times, for example, the executive orders, if and when President Trump initiates those executive orders, most of them will reflect his policies and the power that he has been given. Now, that is not necessarily right or wrong, but all that I'm saying is it depends on the position of the power that be. That is what is going to translate into the laws, for example, the executive orders. However, that can be challenged, and public sentiments as well as public pressure is very important, because don't forget, this is just the beginning of things. We don't know what is going to happen in the next couple of months. Things may happen that will change the perspective of even those who voted for President Trump or President.
The reason why I asked that question is because just yesterday in Maryland, a judge struck down one of President Biden's decisions. I think that
the parole in place. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
That says just because you are married to a U.S. citizen and you are undocumented, doesn't guarantee a passage or a pathway to becoming a permanent resident. So that's why I ask you the question: is the application strictly the law to the letter a violation of? So that's why I ask you the question.
Well, you are right. The executive orders or presidential decisions or regulations cannot circumvent congressional position. The immigration laws are clean and clear, right? They have laws that are in the books. An American citizen can file for his or her spouse or parent or child. Those laws are in there. It is the application and the implementation of those laws that will really, really have an effect. You have quoted a good example. This has just been cast out because why? In the immigration laws, an American citizen can file for his or her spouse, but this is being dropped because the argument is the person or the spouse entered without inspection. In other words, they were not admissible. So that is an example of the implementation or the application of that particular immigration law to make sure that the benefit is not given. And that can be done in many ways.
What does the law say? Okay, I have the status of a U.S. citizen in the United States.
Right.
If I wasn't married, can I just go grab somebody who is undocumented to get married? Would that be breaking the law?
Of course, if it's not a good faith marriage, right? Good faith marriage in immigration parlance is that a marriage that is entered into not solely for immigration purposes. In other words, you can get married to a foreign national and file for them or petition for them, but the purpose of that, it shouldn't have been that you were getting married solely for immigration purposes. It could be for other reasons, but that's not. So it is a nebulous term. But however, there are things that will determine whether that was a valid marriage or good faith marriage. Things like joint assets, liabilities, shared life together, and things like that. So you cannot just go grab anybody and get married to them. If you do, you will need to demonstrate that is a good faith marriage.
what President Biden's executive orders, his all executive orders are almost certainly going to be erased day one. All of them do the same, Republicans and Democrats. You come, you trash all the executive orders that your predecessors signed. But the question here is, a lot of immigrants benefited from the temporary protective status, TPS. Is that going to be under threat?
It will probably be under threat because, as you know, TPS is more or less an executive order, although it is determined by USCIS, United States Immigration Services, through the Department of Homeland Security for countries that have situations that are really bad, volatile situations, wars, serious political situations. However, TPS can be terminated by the administration. For example, if President Trump comes in and the Secretary for Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, decides that TPS is not going to be given to this country, it will not be extended for this particular country because, quote unquote, the situation has improved, or for any reasons that are brought up, yes, that could terminate TPS. It could, because it is not a congressional mandate. It's not a law that was passed by Congress. So it can actually be terminated by the executive branch.
You are watching Voices of Africa.
Children of Africa, tell me, are you ready?
And my name is Divine Chamukong. I'm anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. My guest today is Attorney Edwin Fogam, who practices immigration law but does family law, civil litigations, and many, many others. He's been in the courtroom for 28 long years. I can say that you've seen it all. Edwin, at some point, we saw undocumented immigrants being bussed across the borders into the United States, different states, predominantly democratic states. What in immigration law permits that or authorizes that? Why were they coming in?
Well, it depends where they were coming in from. Now, if these were foreign nationals who were at the border and seeking permission because they claim that they were persecuted in their home countries, they could be admitted, either paroled in or admitted in. Now, but the challenge is, where are they going to? Now, you've heard about sanctuary cities, right? Certain states where the government decided that to protect undocumented foreign nationals, the state will not cooperate completely with the federal government. For example, certain policies of the federal government were considered to be hurting undocumented foreign nationals who deserved help. So it is not a violation of immigration law if these persons were seeking some protection under the asylum laws, which is part of the immigration laws of the United States, or temporary something like protection against torture and things like that. And those persons can be admitted temporarily, and again from there they could be bussed into states that they could be detained or they could be released. Now, the flexibility as to how that is done will depend on the policy, right? The government policy.
I mean, that didn't quite go well with critics of Joe Biden, because they thought that he just lodged them in hotels and then they just had a good time. But people come here seeking asylum, passing through all those Mexican jungles, southern border. Does the law say that if you come from overseas, from wherever, you should be outside of the United States while seeking asylum, or you can be admitted into the United States while the process is going on? I think this is the crux of the matter.
Well, yeah, if you remember, President Trump in 2017 had the ban, right? Both the Muslim ban and the third country ban. In other words, if you were coming from another country into the United States, you would not be admitted unless you demonstrate that you had filed for asylum or you had sought a safe haven in that country and was not granted. And when Biden came in, President Biden overturned that with his executive orders. However, recently, there was also a Biden third country ban, right, which stated that who was coming in and seeking asylum should first of all attempt to seek asylum before getting into the United States. So yes, definitely there are provisions. This now, again, it will depend on what the new executive orders will state, right? But definitely there are provisions that you need to seek asylum in a third country. Actually, the Biden third country ban came up, I believe, May 2023, and it's still valid until 2025. But I don't know how that will work when President Trump comes.
I can tell you that's going away.
Maybe,
that's going away.
maybe that's going away, and what we are going to have now is a permanent third country ban. In other words, if you are coming from a third country, you may not just be eligible to even seek asylum at all. We don't know. We'll have to see.
Actually, Fogam, there are lots of immigrants watching the show, and many others will watch later on. It's on www.chatniteafrica.net. It's on YouTube in high resolution. It's on Facebook, 2 places, and on other social media handles. People will always want to come to the United States, rightly or wrongly, for wrong reason or right reasons, we don't know. What would you tell somebody who sits in Nigeria or Cameroon contemplating, because of the war, I ought to go to the United States? What would you tell them before they take off?
I would tell them that there are opportunities in the challenges. This is not new. If you look at U.S. immigration history, what is happening now is not new, right? There will always be those challenges. There will always be obstacles to immigrants coming in here. However, most immigrants, most foreign nationals coming to the United States come here for good reasons and for very positive reasons. And to the extent that they are willing to work and they are willing to abide by the laws and they are willing to do what the country would ask of them, they will always be welcome, trust me, in one way or the other. So I would tell anybody who would like to come to the United States that there are challenges, but there are opportunities in the challenges. And if you know this is what you really want to do, focus on it and you will find your way, even with everything that is going on. Because don't forget, U.S. immigration system is very selective. It's very selective. The system itself somehow selects those type of people who will benefit from the country as well as enrich the country. So we shouldn't forget that. That's how the country was built.
You are watching Voices of Africa. Now, there are all kinds of reasons why people come to the United States to seek asylum. What are winnable reasons before immigration court judges?
What are
winnable reasons?
Winnable reasons. First of all, you should understand that.
Give us some examples.
Yes. In short, just understand that for you to be granted asylum in the United States, you have to prove 3 things. First of all, you have to prove that you are affiliated with a particular political, social, or religious group, or it was imputed onto you. And 2, that because of that affiliation, you were persecuted. And 3, that you have a well-founded fear or you are afraid to go back because of that persecution. Now, there are lots of things that can go into this, right? From how you left your country, what happened to you, how you were able to pass through the borders and get into the United States and things like that. And you have to corroborate all these things. You have to submit documents and information to show your affiliation or imputed affiliation, to show your persecution or problems, and to show that in reality, if you were to go back, you will be persecuted or you are afraid to go back. To the extent that you can prove these things before an immigration judge in court, the asylum can be granted. And you have to testify to this as well, so that the judge would determine your credibility, whether you are telling the truth or not. Of course, your lawyer will work with you to elicit your information to present to the court for that purpose. So it's a little complex, yeah. But
how do asylum seekers begin by complicating their cases the moment they step into the United States?
By just filing something, by just preparing and filing an application that you have not thought through very well, and the bases are not well founded. And sometimes people prepare those things for people, just tell them file this and get your work authorization. And those things will always, your immigration records are almost permanent. As soon as you file your papers with U.S. Immigration Services and you have an alien number, or you have documented proof that your papers have been filed, that is part of your record. So if you have presented facts that you cannot defend, you cannot be heard tomorrow to say that these things were not what they were because I have discovered new things today. So that is a very big concern when you are preparing your application. So
you and I are from Cameroon, and we know that in the English-speaking regions of the country, there is an armed insurrection. Do people present those reasons in court and win all the time? If not, why not?
Well, that is the myth is that the country conditions, a situation of war and anarchy and problems, is a ground for asylum. That's a myth. Asylum has both a subjective and an objective component, right? Now, the objective component is the country conditions, yes. The human rights violations, yes. But you have to demonstrate that subjectively, you in particular, for example, you and I know that we have people living in Cameroon, right? They are not dead. They are not all dead, right? They're living and things are happening because maybe they are not active or they are not involved in any particular political movement. Nothing happens to them. So if and when you are seeking asylum, you need to consider your subjective situation as well as the country conditions. So the biggest myth is that a country that violates human rights, or if you come from a country where human rights are being violated, automatically you are eligible for asylum. No, you need to demonstrate your unique personal situation.
We will be right back, and you are watching Voices of Africa, and my guest today is Attorney Edwin Fogam. And you can watch this show on www.chatniteafrica.net in high resolution, or on YouTube as well in high definition. We're also on Facebook, 2 places, and on other social media handles. On this platform are 4 programs. Next Generation today, during which we expose, we show off teens, young adults who are inventing incredible things, solving societal problems. We also have Healthline. We talk about health issues. We have Voices of Africa, which is what you're watching right now. And we have Family Matters. And on Family Matters, we talk about all the problems in marriages and relationships and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 3-minute break, and we will be right back. Now, this is a song that was composed less than 24 hours by a guy in Maryland called Pabali. This guy is prolific. He's, by all accounts, extraordinarily talented. I'm just not throwing words. Go to YouTube. After watching this video, I'm going to blast right now. Go to YouTube and search Pabali and thank me later. Stay tuned.
muntum dam ni bubum. Wani nadinga mulontum. Kita puni ni pia kutanga mechi abu. Yana dinga baba lomitum. Yanda ngoma munemi. Mamunchi kandi baba do binali longa. Ida bi san konda mamu mune watali. Madam mani nangore. Abang. Ujemo madam mani nangore. Mubanchi mabule ke butuwe. Ujemo madam mani nangore. Atile. Ujemo madam mani nangore. Ujemo madam mani nangore. Ujemo madam mani nangore. Kita chunga kani yo jomchio. Madam mani nangore. Chiwa yo. Ngajuk tu boke. Bagambelanda mgonia, Bagambelanda mgonia, Bagambelanda mgonia, Ibatanja majinsi chimatalia. Uambo tinchi maji yundap, Mwanchu sendam mgoni, Bimo bagun bak bobila, Iyon chundong mgoni, Ntacho wa majie. Laje wacho majindawa, Usichi wa matali. Ositi matali Tibi burkiti Ngabo tibi burkiti Bagren kalito tamati matali Mbi burkiti nangungoni Oh Bagren kalito tamati matali Mbi burkiti nangungoni Batanti tamati mayunanga Anjuwa madawi ndimbi matenda mgoni Yomo beti nita kuchu Anjuwa madawi ndimbi mekofunda we Animba de kuku bak nita choni kuwa Owa kukuwe umambobo nilimbwe madonchiwa Eye jili nidochia Owa kubo ninji mafewe ngeni njindinji Owa ba kieju me kieju nu kieju mfelwa Eye tukwa kieju ni Madam Mani Namgoni. Well, yeah. Ujebo Madam Mani Namgoni. Mani Namgoni. Ujebo Madam Mani Namgoni. Mamu Mani Namgoni Mani Baby Madam Mani Beba. Ujebo Mani Namgoni Mani Baby Mani Namgoni. You won't bet in the double shoe. Wow. How about me? Madam Mani Namgoni, Jutali Madangoni, Jutangu Madangoni, Bagaja Madam Tango Madam Kula Jumbo, Jutali Madangoni, Jutangu Madangoni, Bagaja Madam Tango Madam Kukuotu Mengoliu, Uma Tilanjondangu, Mquatiliono. Iti bisang kukuwa we you know ne kampanye de kotiwa awa meni kotiwie ba kiti bi like a chapter mo awa ti mi anita go zuti ba go te de chamanda ngomele otibi ti bo beto ni kanda ba go ta be chamanda ngomele otibi ti you no ti kupia e matela Wakomi, Nimubo, Macho, Mayundawa. Viva Sangmavika, Tarakabo Jua, Utinchi, Manchu, Langitin Yonga. Okatomandu, you. Bagantamadu, you. Come to your Nipai Baba. What will be Betty Yava? What to tell you? What's the You know that my business is my blood. You know me come out.
All right, and that's Pa Bali in Maryland. He is a registered nurse, highly talented. You can find him on YouTube. Search on YouTube, Pa Bali, Bali. You will enjoy good music. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, I invite you to join me in welcoming our guest for the evening, lawyer Edwin Fogam. Now the phone line is open. I know some of you indicated that you'll be having some questions. I will take your questions unfiltered. My name is Divine Chamakong. I'm anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. The number to call is 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. If you are overseas, you can dial 001 first. Chatnite Africa, Africa's voice to the world.
Keep watching Chatnite Africa.
Attorney Fogam, does the President of the United States, I mean any president, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, whoever, do they have powers to revoke immigration rulings by a court? Can he order his Attorney General to revisit adjudications passed?
Well, Divine, just as we discussed before, certain immigration status can be revoked, right? Legally, the immigration laws provide that permanent resident status, naturalization could, in principle, be revoked if it can be shown that there were elements of fraud, serious misrepresentations, and things like that. However, there has to be due process. Have to go through the courts. Now, if your question is whether the President of the United States can reverse a congressional provision which has become law, the answer is, of course, no. Right? They could enact or pass executive orders as to how that particular law should be implemented and can use that to influence the law. But the president cannot directly revoke what has become law through Congress, gone through the process of becoming law, just as the immigration code and the laws in the books. If you recall, many times, I think in the prior Trump administration, the question was whether children born in the United States should be considered citizens. That is law. That is the immigration law, right? In order to revoke that, it has to go through the Congress. That particular law has to be amended and actually passed. So that is how it works.
Thank you.
President-elect Donald Trump is on video saying deportees who attempt to sneak back into the United States will be executed. Does he have the authority to do that?
Definitely no. Definitely no, not directly. Now, of course, criminally, if it's your second offense and you are placed in criminal proceedings and you are found guilty in court and a death penalty is given to you or against you, then that can happen. But as to whether the president can come up with an executive order that deportees who are coming back can be executed, that is not the law. That cannot be the law.
Granted, that's not the law. What would the Department of Justice do to those who are trying to be recidivist? In other words, they send them back?
That is that could be an implementation of an executive order. Now, an executive order can do a lot of stuff, right? It could determine how much security background checks have to be done, how stringent the laws needs to be applied, the discretion that immigration officers can or would have. And those can be used to actually make it difficult for foreign nationals. I don't like to call them aliens. I like to call them foreign nationals, right? I don't like to say illegal aliens or I like to say foreign nationals. Yeah. But that is the only way executive orders can be used. But the law cannot just be directly changed as such without going through the legal congressional process to become law.
Maybe not a game of semantics, but some people call those who try to come here illegally illegal immigrants. Some people call them undocumented immigrants. What's the difference between the two, sir?
Well, I think it's, as you rightly say, it's matter of semantics. It's the perception, how you want to see them. I believe it is all how you view them. I view foreign nationals coming to this country, whether documented or undocumented, I see them as foreign nationals, right? Seeking to improve their lives or to seek better pastures. However, what will happen is it depends what happens here and what you do and how you do those things. But I don't think it's right to just have a blanket term that all immigrants or aliens coming to this country are illegal immigrants or foreign or aliens, right? Aliens. That is not.
Chatnite Africa.
Governors in democratic states are already promising to make their states, quote, Trump-proof. Any ideas, as lawyers have been in the courtroom for 28 years doing this, handling cases, immigration cases, any ideas what they could do? Take the case of Maryland, for example.
Yeah, well, there are lots of things that the state can do to actually fight against the federal implementation of an executive order, for example. For example, the state attorney general can challenge it in court. The state can pass state laws contrary to that. But of course, most of those things will still end up in litigation in federal courts and maybe ultimately before the Supreme Court. So the question becomes, at what point in time will any challenge from the state prevent an executive order from being actually implemented? That is a nebulous question, and it just depends on the litigation that is going to be involved and how long that will take. But yes, the state can implement things to actually prevent the application of executive orders in that state. But there will be challenges to that and counter challenges. For example, states like California, New York, and Oregon give temporary identifications, right, to undocumented foreign nationals. This helps in them do things around and so on. But other states will consider that a sanctuary law, right? So it is all very complex, but litigation is what is going to happen a lot. The courts are going to be very busy.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And you guys are going to be very busy as immigration lawyers as well. We hear all of these sanctuary cities. Are these legal areas? Are they like buffer zones, so to speak?
Divide. I like the way you are playing between legal and you are avoiding the political and power dynamic in the legal. I like that. But the truth is, I agree with you. Some of those things are not clearly legal in the sense that if a sanctuary city is refusing to implement a federal legislation, federal immigration law, that is technically a violation. However, the issue becomes, what is the policy? What is the policy behind it? And what are the pressures that are causing that state to take that position? And that becomes a very political issue instead of a legal matter. So, I told you from the beginning that maybe many people think that the law is almighty, right? The law covers everything. But my experience has been that the law is actually informed by politics and power. Because if you think about it, the law comes out of the implementation of certain power positions. Take Congress, for example. Now, if Congress, now that the Republicans are going to have a majority in Congress, if laws are passed now in Congress, those laws, what direction do you think those laws will be going towards? That's a power.
I can imagine that.
That's a
I
power.
can imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a pointed question here. If you have undocumented immigrants in Montgomery County or somewhere in Maryland, and the governor of Maryland decides, okay, these are going to be sanctuary or sanctuary state, whatever it chooses to call them, and Donald Trump decides that those undocumented immigrants must be deported, how is this going to go? Do you have a situation that ICE officials, you call them ICE, right?
Yes, ICE, Immigration and
ICE.
Customs Enforcement, yes.
Okay. Can you have a situation that they come into Maryland, the governor says, hey, stop right there, stop at the border, stop in Virginia? Can that happen?
It could happen, but again, Divine, it will come back to records, because there will probably be some sort of emotion, and there will probably be some petition to prevent that from happening. At the same time, the federal government will also sue, right, to enforce it, and the courts will come in. There's no question about that. The federal courts are going to be very busy. The federal judges are going to be very busy hearing motions and counter motions as to whether this particular policy should be applied. Does it violate the Constitution? And don't forget, the Constitution is still there, even though due process and fundamental fairness are foundational, right? So even if something is going to happen, it has to go through the process. There has to be due process.
The beauty of the United States attorney program is that the courts, you guys fight these things in court. In Cameroon, there's something called haute instruction de chef de l'État. That's high instructions of the head of state. And you're wondering whether the head of state's word has become law. President Biya sends some instructions, or people just, the Secretary General in the presidency says, on the high instructions of the head of state, this is going to happen.
I think that is an executive order without limits, without any checks. Yes, that's an executive order without any opportunity to challenge. Yes, which again, as you say, the beauty about.
I love it. Yeah, I love the way it's said in French. Somehow the French version sounds so beautiful. Sur les hautes instructions de chef de l'État.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, let's move on.
Keep watching Chatnite Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Divine Chamukong, and you're watching Voices of Africa. The topic this evening essentially is, are immigrants, legal or undocumented, in peril under a Trump presidency? That's in essence what we're talking here. We will be right back with two powerful questions for the attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, keep watching. We have great stuff for you. We have two last questions, and I'll be opening the phone lines for questions from the public. Watch this. You will love what you see. Voice to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we kept the best for last. There is a powerful question that I kept it for last, and I will be inviting Attorney Edwin Fogam to take the question right now. Sometime in August, the Republican governor, Greg Abbott, in Texas, signed an order mandating Texas hospitals to collect information about patients' immigration status and report it to Health and Human Services Commission, HHSC. Governor Abbott's order is antithetical, I would think, to federal law that mandates emergency care for all. Immigration status should not be taken into consideration. Lawyer Edwin Fogam, if an immigrant, documented or not, went to hospital anywhere in the country and they're asked their immigration status, what should they do?
Divine, why are you putting me in this difficult situation to answer questions that are, to say the least, can go either way? Now, the fact is that there are issues of privacy, there are issues of constitutional rights, even though foreign nationals don't have the same constitutional rights as American citizens, but they do have due process rights and privacy rights as well. So the first question we have to ask is, which law mandates that requirement? Is it an executive order? And if so, has that state actually challenged that order, or has that state embraced that order? That's the first question. Secondly, has that order been challenged anywhere else? As you know, there are executive orders that have been challenged in other federal courts of other states. And when those judges terminate or put a ban on those executive orders, it affects that federal order, affects the implementation of that executive order in other states. So it really depends on what is going on between the state and the federal government at that point. That is why it is so important for us to figure out what executive orders are going to come into effect, when, and how the various states are going to react to those orders. So most of them will end up in litigation. Most of them will end up in federal court, as I keep saying, because that is the most logical avenue for these things to go. Now, they could be expedited and get to the Supreme Court quickly. The only challenge, I think one of the challenges we have here is that all branches of government at this point seem to be from one perspective, and that may make certain laws go faster and get to the Supreme Court and implemented faster. So that is a big challenge, but let's see what happens.
And that's where we draw the curtain. This broadcast was designed to be an hour because the lawyer is very busy. I can tell you that after January 20th, you guys will be even busier. Do you foresee that happening?
Well, I foresee that, although I don't know exactly how fulfilling that busyness will be, but we'll see. As I said before, there are lots of aspects that are unpredictable in this situation. There are many things that we think, based on the platform that President Trump presented, or President-elect Trump presented, that are going to be implemented. We don't know yet how those will be implemented. We don't know the challenges that will come, how they will come. So there are lots of things that are a little nebulous here. But
are there times that people come to you when you look at the case and say, this is not good?
Yes, lots of time, lots of it, lots of times. There are many. In most of the time, there are two ways you look at cases, right? One is you actually look at the substantive aspect of the case. You look at the testimony, the documents, and things like that. The second way you look at a case is gut feeling. I guess this comes with years of having seen similar things. Some cases you can see things the way they stand, and you just know from your gut that this case will not go the way it's expected. And you have to tell the client that. You have to let them understand the chances of their cases. Some will still persist and proceed, but it's important for them to know what they are looking at, right? Yeah.
I'm going to give you 2 minutes to speak to immigrants right now, and then we draw the curtain.
Wow, that's a big one. Well, my take in all of this is that, as I said from the beginning, there are always opportunities even in challenges, right? Sometimes the obstacle can be the way. Now, we are just witnessing this change, and we are all worried about what is going to happen, but I think we should calm down. Uh, it is often said that a community, a group, even a country would get the leaders that they deserve. Now, if and when the situation in the country changes, the pressure and what people expect changes, then the leaders will change. And that can happen very quickly, very, very quickly. Certain policies can be implemented, and the results or the backlash or the avalanche of pressure against those things can lead to very quick and sudden changes, revolutionary change, revolutionary situations. So we shouldn't just throw our hands and say, this is the end of it. Everything that is going to come from here for the next 4 years is going to be bad. We may be pleasantly surprised what could happen. That is my message at this point, before we know more, right?
You'll be coming back when,
Yes, step by step, we are going to be looking at it as it goes along. Right?
Absolutely. Mr. Mumbalingwa, my director of transmission in Chicago, says, what about appeal processes? I don't know what it means.
Yes, I guess I know what it means. Now, appeals are right. Just questioning the decision of one agency or a court going to a higher court, right? Now, the question becomes whether the judges of the higher court will reverse what the lower courts have determined, or they will dismiss your appeal. That's just what an appeal is. An appeal is just questioning the decision that has been. And appeals begin from USCIS appeal going up to administrative appeals units. And for immigration proceedings, it could go to the Board of Immigration Appeals. It could even go to the federal court and to the circuit courts and so on. So I guess it will still be the same flavor that is in the country in immigration will definitely affect appeals, because don't forget who appoint the judges. The judges are nominated and confirmed, nominated by the president, confirmed by the Congress. So it will definitely reflect the flavor, the political flavor of the country. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's where we come to conclude this edition of Voices of Africa. I have another exciting session next week. My guest on the screen, Mr. Edwin Fogam, immigration attorney. He does litigations, family law, civil litigation, so to speak, and other areas of law. Where did you read law?
Well, I studied at University of Yaoundé and Washington College of Law, American University. That's where I read law, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, you want to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to say you will get more information if you go to my website, www.fogamlaw.com.
And how can you be contacted?
Sorry?
How can you be contacted? Your phone number, please.
Okay, my office phone number is 301-608-1555. and my website is www.fogamlaw.com. You can also email me, ekfogam@fogamlaw.com or info@fogamlaw.com.
Repeat your phone number one more time, please.
301-608-1555.
301-608-1555. 301-608-1555. You got it. And I will be posting his website once the show is over, so that if you want to go there, you can always. Mr. Edwin Fogam is right deep down Silver Spring, Maryland. If you know Georgia Avenue, World Building, you're still there, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Very good. Anybody who has lived in Maryland knows World Building.
Yeah.
Now, do you take cases outside of Maryland or just in Maryland?
Yes, I do. Immigration is federal jurisdiction. I have cases all over the country. I go to Atlanta, Georgia, California, Michigan. Of course, it will depend on the situation and the type of case. But yes, immigration is federal jurisdiction.
Again, number is 301-608-1555. 301-608-1555. If you want to contact him, or if you reach me,
Yes.
you reach him.
Go through Chatnite.
Go through Chatnite.
Yes.
Maybe you have some discounts. Chatnite discounts.
Thank you very much, Divine, for having me.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Edwin Fogam, for this appearance, formidable participation. You can watch this show, tell your friends and family, and those of you watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell for all notifications, because we've lined up transformative broadcast. That's what we do here. You watch what you did last week, right? And today, again, next week. We bring good stuff here. You come for good stuff. I want to thank the lawyer he's a very busy guy, for taking time off his very, very crowded schedule to come take questions here. I really appreciate you. And that's where we go. Merci à tout le monde. I have a bit of French to speak before I go. I will see you. And when we're about to go, you hear this.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming. Coming to get down. I'm coming. I'm coming. Coming to dance. To dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna get down. We're gonna get down. We're gonna party. Party hardy. We're gonna boogie. Boogie woogie. And when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here, it's dynamite. I'm ready. I'm coming. I'm coming back. I'm coming.